Welcome to Public Comment. I'm John Dunbar, former mayor of Yountville.
And I'm Alfredo Pedrosa, farmer.
This episode is 5 for 5. 5 topics, 5 minutes each. Here we go.
Good luck.
There are going to be consequences to this change.
If you're trying to curb development, just say it.
In some cases, 10 times the fees.
They don't care. They don't want to invest.
They approve that project and then the neighbor sues.
It's ridiculous and it's foolish. John, what are the topics?
Topic 1, street restriping.
Where?
We're seeing it all over the city of Napa. That's a good thing. Long has it been since repaving and restriping happened. However, being out on Browns Valley Road in West Napa and in other parts of the Napa area that have had the restriping, there's a lot of change.
That's good.
It is confusing.
Are you complaining?
I am complaining.
Why?
To a degree. I get the need for safety. I get the need to get slower traffic because there are a lot of homes in the area. The streets are abnormally wide for just regular neighborhood streets, so people tend to drive fast. We have cyclists, we have pedestrians, but if you go out there on First Street on the west side into Browns Valley Road, there's so many different stripes, colors. Every single driveway, every intersection has these green rectangular.
I thought it was graffiti.
Street graffiti. And in some areas, the bike lane is now along the curbside with parking set aside from the curb adjacent to the drive aisle. And in some areas, the cars are still parked on the curb and the cyclist lane is between the parked cars and the driving cars. And it's different. It's confusing. I get that this is a trend nationally for safer streets, but holy smokes, it is a real,
Look, you brought it up to my
challenge.
attention the other day. So I have a barber down in that neck of the woods. So I was driving down First Street, and full disclaimer, I'm sensitive to safe streets. No secret, I lost my dad to a cycling accident, so I'm totally sensitive. But seeing green on the road and cars off the curb and then driveways, I don't know if someone went to a conference and they saw a new thing.
Or 10 new things.
Well, I'm not seeing it. I'm all for safe streets. That's why I mentioned what I just shared. That and what I'm seeing, it's inconsistent. I don't know what the hell they were thinking.
Well, I get what they were thinking.
I don't. Explain it to me.
But there's more coming, so that's why I bring it up now. I know I just saw a release that they're about to start doing the same thing on Lincoln Avenue. And so that's a major thoroughfare. But on First and Browns Valley Road, one of the big challenges is you could no longer see coming out of a driveway or from, say, Browns Valley Market, because the cars that are parked are now 5 feet or so away from the curb. You can't tell until you pull out into the drive lane if there's a car coming or not.
So then you're blocking the walkway, the cycle lane, because you're trying to inch out, to your point, right? So for someone that's listening, you have the cars essentially where the bike lane was before.
Yeah.
And now you have the roadway, the walking way parallel to the curb.
Basically flipped.
Yeah. I don't get it. I
understand people feel, and I know somebody paid a lot of money for the consultant to give the study. And I know the city has embraced this because, like I said, they're doing it in other places. But sometimes the common sense seems to be lacking because it has created a much more challenging, sight line for people. And I'm not sure that there was enough real consideration for the nuances. And I get it. You sign contracts and you have construction that comes in and they do it the way they do it because that's the most efficient way to do it. But now I worry that there are going to be consequences to this change.
I'm not fully convinced this is a good idea, right? But maybe we can move on because I don't want to spend all 5 minutes on this because I'm not a believer yet. I'm willing to be proved wrong. But, one of the topics, John, you're going to go to a League of Cities event, another boondoggle, right? So you're still traveling.
Wait, I got to get the timer reset.
Yeah, but you're traveling, so you're out of office. Why are you going? Tell me why you're still interested in going to a conference with other electeds.
I'm a past president of the League of California Cities. That's why.
You say so.
And every year.
Why does that matter?
Every year, the conference typically it's either in Sacramento or Long Beach to go Southern California, Northern California, alternating for those elected officials that are traveling. By the way, I do think we need to drink after every topic.
I'm going to do it regardless.
But I found the league to be so helpful in my 18 years of elected service. I don't see as many electeds, certainly not in Napa County, using these resources and using this networking opportunity. There are a couple people that I know still go, not as often as I and others when I was in office used to go. The North Bay was a great network, the North Bay Division. I know you were involved in things like MTC and other regional agencies. That made us better local elected officials. And I worry people aren't doing it because, it's extra personal time. Yeah, it is. That's part of the job.
Yeah, but it's to bring resources back home, right? It's to get shit done. When, again, I don't like the trip down memory lane, John, because it's just you and me, revisiting the good old days. But we brought resources that we normally wouldn't bring if it wasn't for these leadership opportunities, right? And it wasn't just going through the motions. You were president, I was chair, and I chaired all these other. Like we were involved, like in the kitchen, making decisions, right, on what the dinner is going to be. It just wasn't going through the motions. But the other part is just like, being part of a team, it's good for elected officials to bond outside of their own community, to get to know each other, to understand the personal side, right? I remember doing some, runs at CSAC, probably not in the optimal conditions, but doing some runs and bonding with colleagues from other parts of the state or some of our own colleagues. You need that, right? Because when you're elected, you're here and everyone's watching you all the time. And to have some reprieve to go away, I think that's good for public service. It's good for relationships. And I just think now some of these electeds, they don't care and they don't want to invest in doing it.
I know we have a couple county supervisors that still are engaged in CSAC, the State Association of Counties. And that's very important, I think.
Good.
I don't see the city council and town council officials as engaged as before. And I know, for example, this is an easy one. I got to know Cecilia Aguiar-Curry when she was mayor of Winters, and I was the mayor of Yountville, and we met 15 or so years ago at a Cal Cities conference. Now she's our assembly member. That means I have had a relationship for over a decade with our elected official in Sacramento. That has made a difference. And I worry that people are frankly too lazy to engage in levels outside their immediate jurisdiction. It makes you a better elected official. I'm living proof of that.
I don't disagree with you, but I also think the measuring stick has changed, John. Like, I hear you say engagement, great, but what outcomes are you tying it to? Right? Like, that's what I want to see. It's like, I'm glad you can go to Long Beach, but how's it going to make it better? You made things better for Yountville when you were president of League of Cities. Tangible stuff.
Well, you learn about other cities and what they've done. How about striping of the streets?
Yeah.
How about how they're building affordable housing? How are they protecting water sources? All these things that we continue to deal with, and our residents sometimes say, what are you doing as our elected leadership to make our life better?
Yeah.
And we, believe it or not, as an elected, you don't know everything. And you are expected to know everything about everything. But to rely on colleagues outside of Napa County, I think is really smart. And when you go to Sacramento and you meet with legislators and you meet with the people that are writing the laws, that matters. You don't wait here in the comfort of your own jurisdiction and wait to see what happens and then respond to it. Be a part of the solution.
I always loved going to Sacramento and telling people how dumb the laws were. That was fun. But move on.
Hey, that's part of it. I mean, we almost got to our buzzer.
What's our next topic?
We'll jump ahead. The next topic. What is the next topic? I don't know. How about
wine labels, or what do you
want to talk? Well, yeah, you are a farmer and
vintner.
You called yourself a farmer. Now you're a farmer vintner.
Yeah, John. Tell
us, what is it like to have your own wine label, and how easy is it?
I make fun of it, but I say this because everyone's like doom and gloom on Napa wine, and I will tell you, I think there's a role for corporate America, right? The big corporations, they have long game, they have research and development dollars. They're investing in Napa, putting Napa on the map putting Napa on the map in ways that we don't even understand, John. But what I've seen that gets me excited, John, is like these small labels, these projects. I think it's exciting. And I actually think we need more of that. We need people, they're saying, hey, I want to do 100 cases. I want to do 200 cases. And they take fucking pride in it. Like they're going to the restaurants and they're there, they're ordering their wine, they're selling it at wholesale, buying it at retail, which is probably what I'm going to do. But that's exciting. And they're telling their friends about it, right? They're traveling and they're, at a dude's ranch in Wyoming and they're saying, hey, come drink my wine. And they're fulfilling orders. That is exciting. That's not corporate America. That's small people doing their wine labels because it's fun. And to me, that's Napa at its purest form, right? Is that excitement as someone is investing real fucking money into it and putting their name on it and then being proud to say, here, drink my wine.
Well, we had that episode with Grant Long. To your point, he spent a full
He's on the road right now. Again.
Well, he spent a month and a half away from his family during the summer to
his family might have been happy.
Wine.
I don't know.
Yeah, right. No, go again. So now he's back on the road. So that's what people don't see is the hard life when you have, now he happens to have 2 wineries and 2 labels that he's promoting, but it's not an easy business to be in. And people don't really appreciate the personal sacrifice that goes into it.
But I like this idea, and I'll give credit. I think it's Gallo that's doing an off-script brand, which is, it's almost like, like seed money in the traditional sense where someone goes to give seed money for an idea. It's kind of giving winemakers an opportunity to say, hey, you're interested in wine. Well, come under our auspice and we'll help you find the grapes, we'll help you make the wine. I like that because I want someone that's, right, whether their parents were farm workers or they're at the JC, they're trying to find purpose. If wine is it and they have that passion, we should maybe lower the barriers to entry for some, right, to do that. And I think that's exciting. And Napa needs us. So I'm just excited when I hear friends and people that I know that are doing their wine label. It's not always for the money, it's for the purpose. And I think that's going to be helpful for Napa.
I'm glad to see and hear that there are people still willing to take that challenge because it is a tough time for the wine industry. Now, the more I read about the trends, not only is it about experiences that are so hard to have here in Napa County because of the pretty heavy restrictions, but there is success happening in different sectors of the industry. Now, the very low-priced wines seem to be having the hardest time.
Yeah.
And the premium wines, most of which is what's coming out of Napa Valley, are still attracting an audience. That audience has gotten older, sure, but it's still reliable and they're brand loyal. So as these small vintner farmers like yourself are entering the fray, it's like, how do you find your sweet spot? I know that you've managed to use some of your personal relationships and
where I go have lunch,
where you go have lunch multiple times. You've set the stage. It's only taken you about 15 years of lunches to get yourself on on a wine list. That's some good research.
But look, I will tell you, Napa's going to be fine. We are hurting. I don't want to make light of it, John, but Napa is going to be okay, right? Government needs to get out of the way a little bit. And I think they'll come to that realization soon enough. But we're privileged. And you have patient money here. We're fortunate. You have patient banks. We're fortunate. I think we have a lot of things going for ourselves. But be positive, right? There's hope here, right? We make some incredible wine, so we got to keep it going. So what's next?
So you're going to start a white wine label soon, aren't you?
No, I only make red. I only drink Cabernet, to be clear. So
fair enough.
Move on.
All right, moving on. The next topic is, what is our next topic? I think you wanted to talk about the county's proposal that's coming up.
The ridiculous one.
Maybe just a couple of weeks after this episode airs. Tell us about it.
It's dumb, it's ridiculous, and it's foolish. All those. And the reason I say this is I'm all for cost recovery, John. We were all elected. We understand what fees are meant to do. It's to recover costs, to make sure taxpayers have a service. But when fees are being used to curb and stop development, that's wrong. No, you're not going to increase fees to make it more expensive. Maybe I'm a little sensitive because I'm going through the project right now and I've had to pay a lot of fees, school fees and all these fees. And I'm just mad about it, but I did it. So I'm a little sensitive to elected officials saying we should increase fees. I would ask them to say, what are you trying to do? If you're trying to curb development, just say it and do it. Don't use fees as a tool to slow development down because you're going to make it so expensive on someone that wants to expand their house, someone that wants to do a winery, or someone that wants to do another commercial enterprise. That is not okay.
Well, I think in some cases, they've been pretty explicit about that's exactly what they're doing, is restricting, if not trying to stop any kind of growth in the unincorporated area. It's already pretty tightly regulated for sure. We've talked about that before, about zoning laws. And then even if your property is zoned a certain way, like for agriculture, doesn't mean you're going to be able to do agriculture on that property. So there are so many different hoops you have to jump through already. But this is, I think, pretty clear that in some cases, 10 times the fees from what has been charged before. That's intentional to stop those kind of projects.
Well, and I'll tell you, look, like we passed an inspection because they were inspecting our sheetrock, nails, and we had to wait and we had to call. And you're telling me that, I get that, right? They want to make sure that my sheetrock is okay. But isn't that my contractor's responsibility? Isn't that my responsibility as an owner that's paying the bill? Do I need an inspector to drive out to my property to inspect? Couldn't I do video? Like we're in a different century. Like let's make development easier. Let's make it more efficient. Here we are trying to make sure that every inspector goes to every site, and then we have to cost recover for that. It's not the right way to do business. And government does have to be more efficient. I'm happy that the county wants me to have a safe home, but I bet my interests supersede their interests to make sure that my family can be safe there. I don't need them there, right? My contractor, who I'm paying, is going to make sure that he builds me a safe home, because if not, his ass is on the line. So now you want to go increase fees, right, on the lowest ranking invested party in that? That's ridiculous.
Well,
So
I get the reason that they're giving is generating additional funds for affordable housing. I get that. That's the intent.
that's the nexus?
Yes.
That can't be. The nexus has to be it's recovering costs for their service. So if they want to fund, and I know this, John, because we did it at the county, if they want to fund affordable housing, then go make affordable housing easier to build. Simple as that. But I'm not going to allow them to say, oh, we're going to focus on affordable housing because it's nice until the neighbors oppose it. So we're going to jack up your rates to do that. I'm done.
I don't think you're done. You're going to just breathe, maybe have a sip of wine. But, I see this even in the city when we added a generator, because in Browns Valley, we were welcomed by folks that we know that live there. Welcome to Browns Valley, buy a generator. And it has lived to be true. We had 6 power outages in the first couple months of living. It's in the city of Napa, but we still lost service 6 times.
Should have called your council member.
Believe me, I did. I emailed. And the challenge is the power grid for that particular situation. And then we get assessed an additional fee by the county for having a building permit to install the generator. It's like, really? So now I'm paying the school district even more money in my property taxes, and I don't have any children that go to school, or any children, period. But, in the unincorporated area, we've already heard folks that don't want any development of any kind, period. And now we're seeing the supervisors respond to that by finding another way to restrict. And I appreciate that county staff responded to my questions on behalf of some folks that have wine industry businesses in particular. There's no language in there that addresses, what about planting a vineyard and you're expanding your employee headcount? Does that trigger an impact fee? What about if you've lost a building or a business to a disaster like a wildfire and you're rebuilding? Well, the answer has been, if you rebuild the exact same square footage, there's no fee. But if you expand it, there is. It's like, so that any change to your square footage will result in this new impact fee.
Time's up.
It's the first time we've actually run out of time.
You're right. I wasn't done. But let me say this. It's not even that, John, right? If you want to remodel your kitchen, if you want to add an ADU, if you want to expand your master bedroom, if you want to build an additional bedroom because your kids are coming back from college, you will pay more. Like,
if you're in the unincorporated area,
that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's real. So people got to get real with it. And if you're trying to stop development, just say it, right? Be proud and do it. So move on.
So one more topic. I think you wanted to talk about the latest headline about water audit California.
That's your buddy. You tell me about your buddy. What is he suing? Who's he trying to stop now?
So all I know is what I've read in the media, so I don't have all the details, but it's a very, very familiar situation.
Tactic.
It relates to the county approval of Bonnie's Vineyard.
So the county planning commission approved it? Or the board?
They did approve it. And this time, instead of appealing that decision, Water Audit California has sued the county to stop to
the courts now.
Yes. Napa Superior Court, I believe. And again, I've brought this up in public comment where I've been accused of attacking Water Audit on a personal level, which is not true. I've not done that. I have called out the tactics that are used. And again, I could have almost written the quotes myself that were in the news article.
Public trust.
The excuse is not even the public trust doctrine. It's, I don't, and okay, you've apologized in the hearing or you've apologized in your response to the applicant. It's not the project, it's the process. And it's like, it's always the process and not the project, but you take it out on the applicant every single time.
I have a question, John. So when they say public trust, what does that mean? Is it like trying to be transparent or what? I'm genuinely asking.
There are resources that are available to all of us. And often what that constitutes is water.
Okay. I guess where I was trying to go with it is they claim that they want transparency, but I'd love to see the books for Water Audit California. I'd love to see who's advising them. Again, if you think about strategic, advice, someone gave him some strategic advice that said, don't appeal to the board, appeal to the courts or see the courts, right? And then you stay it because that winery, I'm assuming, now stayed. They can't keep going forward on their approval because they've been sued or at their risk.
Right.
Which means you ain't doing it.
Well, that happened to, I will give credit. The county did approve that project because it complied with all the county rules. They have approved many other projects, not all, certainly.
But if it gets challenged in the courts,
it's a different deal. And you're right. I think the whole thing is frozen.
Or at risk of the owner, which no one's going to say, I'm going to go invest millions of dollars because I'm being sued.
Well, a similar thing happened to the Napa Valley.
Yeah, that's where I was going with it.
It wasn't water audit this time because there was literally no water involved that I know of. But it was the neighbor who happens to be an attorney who didn't like the outcome that the county gave, the approval they gave after extensive public comment period and analysis by the county. They approved that project and then the neighbor sued.
So that's what I'm saying.
So they can't move forward.
Agreed. So let me put it in a very basic way. Say you want to remodel your kitchen, John. You have every right to. It checks the boxes. And your neighbor says, I don't like it. I don't like that you're going to make noise. I'm going to sue you. That's what's happening in a bigger scale. But that's what's happening. Now, are you going to want to go order those appliances? Are you going to want to spend money on your contractor if you don't know what's going to happen with your neighbor? That is what people are doing in the Valley. And it drives me nuts. And I think at some point we have to transfer some ownership on those that are doing it because it's not free reins and it's not fair.
Well, I've asked if there's any legal way that you can either determine frivolous lawsuits are being filed or the appellant or the filer of the lawsuit is responsible for legal fees if the outcome is dismissal. Because the full financial burden is on the person who's either received approval from the project or the delays in getting to a decision.
I don't know why, John. I'm just not in a good mood right now, right? We're blessed to live here, and then you have these people that are just complaining about it. How many cities are in the state of California?
483.
Okay, move to one of those if you're so unhappy about this. And I mean that, this is beautiful. And you know what I did when I was expanding my home? I went to each neighbor and I said, I'm sorry, we're going to be making some noise. If you have any issues, here's my cell phone. Give me a call. That's what people do, right? You're trying to be respectful and courteous. I happen to think most people that are doing business in Napa have that attitude. I do because I've seen it. You tell me if you disagree with that. So most people want to be good neighbors. But then you have these outside parties and these neighbors that are just mad at the world that are trying to make it hard on everyone. I don't think that's fair.
Well, with the county in particular, you have people that have an individual agenda. It's not always an environmental agenda, but it's an agenda for no growth. It's an agenda for no change. And they, frankly, abuse the legal system to stop, if not cancel. Because sometimes people can't afford to go through a lawsuit. And so they give up.
All right.
That's not fair.
I'm done, John. Are we
I
done?
know
Are we done?
the alarm would have gone off except my phone locked up. So you can consider yourself cut off.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers to that.
John, that took a lot out of me. You can't do that again.
Do we have to go 1 for 1 instead of 5 for 5 minutes?
That's my pace of life now, John. As a farmer, I like things to be calm and slow and predictable.
Well, I think what we can use this wrap up today to almost be like a time lapse record of the construction project going across the street, because each time we come out here is a little something different. But I like touching on different topics that are very timely, relevant. Some of these I think we need to go in further depth, but I also think it's about just bringing them up so there's some conversation.
Look, it was a change of pace. It was different. It was new. I like that you're still going on boondoggles, right? To these wonderful conferences. But I think it's still a pretty unique perspective that we can provide. And, I find ourselves still being fully engaged and passionate about events. So I'm having a good time.
And the fact that I pay my own way to go to the boondoggle, unlike the great wine capitals, which I was never able to go to. But, these opportunities for our electeds really should be taken seriously. And I get sometimes people have obligations that doesn't allow them to extend their service beyond the immediate local. But a lot of times it's just because they feel like it's not important. And I hope that's not the case.
I will tell you, being on the outside, I tend to look at public office like military service. Go, do your job, do the task, and get out. But when you're there, do it intensely, passionately, purposefully, and then get out. Don't hang out. And I think we have too many people that are just hanging out, going on boondoggles.
And a couple of the other topics we touched on, I get the intention of safe streets and to avoid cycling or pedestrian injuries or even worse. We want safe streets, no question about it. But the way I see it, and I understand what they're doing. A lot of folks don't get it at all because they're not exposed to that. There needs to be some common sense built into this, and I hope that what's happening in the city, great job with paving and improving the streets, but we need to do it with some common sense too.
I'm tired, John. I don't have anything left in me.
Well, if you have enough energy to raise the glass.
Always
cheers.
do.